Okay, today we're going somewhere intense. We're stepping inside Germany's biggest forensic psychiatric facility. But here's the thing. This isn't some tour guide's version. We're getting a raw first-person account from someone who was locked up on the inside. He's going to walk us through his world and, more importantly, introduce us to the people he was locked away with. So let's just dive right in.
Right off the bat, our narrator sets the tone. To him, this isn't a psychiatric ward. It's not a hospital. It's not a clinic. Nope. He calls it a secret prison. In his story, this place has a name, and it's a chilling one.
So, welcome to Blacksite Berlin. And like I said, this isn't really about our narrator. It's about the people he met there. This unforgettable and, frankly, terrifying cast of characters he was locked up with.
So what is this place really? Well, the official name is the Krankenhaus des Maßregelvollzugs. Yeah, a mouthful. Let's just call it the KMV. It's Germany's largest correctional facility for mentally ill offenders. But to our narrator, it's a whole different story. He calls it a modern-day gulag. He even claims they use psychological methods straight out of the playbook of the Stasi, the old East German secret police. And he argues its whole purpose isn't to heal people. It's all about control. He talks about something he calls systematic decomposition, a process designed to completely break and silence you. The people inside, he says they're disenfranchised, basically outlaws with no legal protection, and they can be held there forever. This is the stage, this is the world where all these stories we're about to hear take place. So we're going into a section called The Law of the Strongest. And according to our source, inside this place, the official rules, they just don't matter. They're replaced by one single, terrifying principle. Okay, so let's get into one of the most intense stories. Picture this. Our narrator is in his bed, just completely out of it, heavily sedated. He's weak because he's just come out of something called fixation, which is basically a fancy term for being tied down, physically restrained. He is, for all intents and purposes, helpless. He's kind of drifting in and out of consciousness when he hears something. A sound. It's this weird rubbing noise, and it's right next to his face. He's groggy, can barely think straight. Should he open his eyes? He's not sure. But the sound, it just keeps going. So he does it. He forces his eyes open, and what he sees is just shocking. An erect penis, literally inches from his eyes. His first instinct? He dives under his covers, just trying to get away. And what follows is just a brutal, desperate fight. The other patient, this absolute giant of a man, we're talking 195 centimeters, 160 kilos, he just throws himself on top of our narrator. He's pinned under the duvet, he can't breathe, and this struggle goes on for what must have felt like an eternity, 10 full minutes. He's fighting with every last bit of strength he has, and somehow, he manages to break free and just bolts out of the room. Now, that absolutely harrowing attack, that was just one of the other patients. But the way our narrator describes it, the whole ward was like, well, a gallery of the damned. Let's look at a few other portraits he paints of the people locked in there with him. First up, you have a gay Turkish soldier, and his whole world, his reality, was built around this really elaborate idea. He believed he was a multi-billionaire, right? And he was funding this massive project to pump all of Earth's oceans into space. You might be asking why? Well, it was to make room for more highways so that we could all just live in our cars. Seriously. Eat, sleep, work, school, all from your car. Then there's the necrophile. This guy murdered his friend and then, desecrated the body. And according to the account, you couldn't escape him. He basically defined the soundtrack of the ward. Every single night, you just hear him screaming from his room over and over again. I am a necrophile. And you see some real desperation. There's this story about an elderly patient who paid another inmate 3,000 euros. And what for? The inmate promised he'd hire a guerrilla team, machine guns and all, to break him out. And the money? Yeah, you can probably guess. Our narrator says it was all spent on drugs almost immediately. And then there's this really tragic story, the account of the man who murdered the son of a former German president. He went on a hunger strike to protest being locked up. And the really shocking part of this story is the allegation that the staff just watched. They allegedly did nothing as he wasted away, and he eventually starved himself to death.
So, a world without saviors. You hear all these stories, right? And they paint this picture of a totally chaotic, really dangerous world. But here's the narrator's main point, the thing he really hammers home. This chaos wasn't an accident. In his telling, it wasn't just tolerated by the staff, it was actively enabled by them.
And you can really see the clash here. On one side, you have the official purpose of the staff, therapy, healing, safety. But on the other side, you have the reality our narrator describes, a reality of staff who are just indifferent, maybe even complicit, staff who just let this totally lawless environment grow and fester.
And he gives this one perfect, chilling example. There's an inmate they call Demon, Demon, a guy who just steals from everyone constantly. So after Damon rips off a NATA patient for hundreds of euros, the victim snaps. He gets a knife and just waits for hours, ready to ambush him. Our narrator says he went and told a nurse what was about to happen, that someone was about to get stabbed. The nurse's response, according to him, just a shrug. He did nothing.
So this is the world he's describing, a world with no real rules. Theft is just normal. It's rampant, and it goes completely unpunished. You might wonder, why not file a criminal complaint? Well, he says they just get tossed out. The logic is, these guys are already serving life. So what are you going to do? The only thing that stops anyone from doing anything, the only form of justice, is just revenge from the other patients.
So you have to ask, how could a world like this even exist? How is this legal? Well, the account points to one very specific, very powerful piece of German law. It all comes down to something called paragraph 63. That's paragraph 63 of the German Criminal Code. And basically, this law lets the state lock someone up indefinitely if they've committed a crime but are found to be, not criminally responsible. This is the key. This is why, according to our narrator, some people have been there for 20, 30, even 40 years. It's a life sentence, but with no end date. And all of this, everything we've heard, it really leaves us with one final, pretty unsettling question. If you're in a world without rules, a world where the staff are indifferent and predators are just allowed to roam free, what really separates the patient from the predator? When the supposed saviors are gone, who is who?